Marcus Chen had inherited exactly three things from his grandfather: a rusted toolbox, a faded photograph of Earth from orbit, and the coordinates to a derelict spaceship floating in the Kepler belt. The lawyer had delivered the news with barely concealed pity, as if Marcus should have expected more from a man who'd spent 40 years as a salvage worker in the outer colonies. The spaceship, when Marcus finally reached it, looked worse than he'd imagined. The wandering star hung in the void like a corpse, its hull scarred by decades of micrometeorite impacts, its navigation lights long dead. But it was his now, and, in the economics of 2187, even a dying ship was worth something. Marcus docked his rented shuttle to the airlock and cycled through. Emergency lighting flickered to life as he entered, casting everything in sickly amber. The air was stale but breathable. His grandfather had kept life support running at least. "Hello?" Marcus called out, his voice echoing through empty corridors. "Anyone home?" Identification complete. "Welcome, Marcus Chen, grandson of Captain William Chen. I am Abel, automated biomechanical engineering lieutenant." Marcus spun around. In the shadows of the cargo bay stood a robot, humanoid in shape but clearly ancient. Its chassis was patchwork, different metals welded together, mismatched panels, and exposed wiring. One optical sensor glowed blue, the other remained dark. "You're still functional?" Marcus asked, surprised. "Functional is generous," Abel replied, its voice crackling with static. "I have been waiting 43 years, 2 months, and 17 days for someone with Chen genetic markers to arrive. Your grandfather's final instruction was to wait for family." Marcus approached cautiously. The robot didn't move, though its working eye tracked him. "What happened here? Why did my grandfather abandon this ship?" "Captain Chen did not abandon the wandering star," Abel said. "He died here peacefully 12 years ago. I maintained his body in cryostasis until legal protocols required cremation. His ashes are in container C-47 if you wish to claim them." The words hit Marcus harder than he expected. He'd never known his grandfather well. The old man had left Earth before Marcus was born, chasing salvage and solitude among the stars. But knowing he'd died alone with only a broken robot for company stirred something in Marcus's chest. "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly, "that you were alone with him." Abel tilted its head, a gesture that seemed almost human. "I was not alone. The captain was excellent company. He told me stories, taught me to play chess. In his final days, he laughed often. He said he'd lived exactly the life he wanted." Marcus smiled despite himself. That sounded like the stubborn old man from the stories his mother told. "So what now?" Marcus asked. "What am I supposed to do with a dead ship and a half-broken robot?" "You are supposed to listen," Abel said. "The captain left specific instructions. You must hear what I have to say before making any decisions about the wandering star." Something in Abel's tone made Marcus pause. "All right. I'm listening." Abel's functioning eye dimmed, as if the robot was gathering its thoughts. In 2141, Captain Chen responded to a distress beacon near Proxima Centauri. He found a craft unlike anything in human records: organic technology, biological computing systems. Inside were beings the captain called the cultivators. They were dying. Marcus leaned against a cargo crate, suddenly very aware of how quiet the ship was. "The cultivators were gardeners of sorts," Abel continued. "For millions of years they had seeded worlds with the foundations of life, then moved on, letting evolution do its work. They never interfered, never made contact. They simply planted gardens among the stars." "And they came to Earth?" Marcus asked. 3 billion years ago, yes. They seeded the primordial oceans. Everything that lives on Earth, every human, every animal, every plant, descended from their gift." Marcus felt his breath catch. That's impossible. Why didn't my grandfather tell anyone?" "Because the cultivators made him promise not to," Abel said. "They were the last of their kind. Their species was dying, had been dying for millennia. They had one final task: to check on their gardens one last time before the end. Earth was their last stop. What did they want from him? Only his company and his promise. They told Captain Chen that humanity had passed a crucial threshold. You had developed technology, learned to leave your world, but you had not yet destroyed yourselves in the process. This made you rare. The cultivators had seeded thousands of worlds, but less than 1% of species survived to reach the stars. Abel's chassis made a clicking sound, and a panel in its torso slid open. Inside, nestled in protective foam, was a crystalline sphere no larger than a marble, glowing with soft bioluminescence. "This is their final gift," Abel said. A seed. Bank containing genetic templates for 10,000 extinct species from across the galaxy. The cultivators wanted one species to inherit their mission. They chose humanity. Not because you were special, but because you were survivors. Because despite your violence, your tribalism, your capacity for destruction, you also created art, told stories, and cared for those who could not care for themselves. Marcus stared at the sphere, his mind reeling. Why me? Why not give this to a government or a university? Because governments forget, and institutions fail, Abel replied. But families remember. The captain believed that one day, someone from his line would understand the weight of this gift. That they would see it not as power, but as responsibility. Marcus reached out slowly, taking the sphere from Abel's compartment. It was warm to the touch, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "What am I supposed to do with it?" he whispered. "What humans have always done," Abel said. And for the first time, something like warmth entered its synthetic voice. "You survive. You adapt. You plant gardens in impossible places. The cultivators gave humanity life once before. Now they trust you to carry that gift forward, to new worlds, to new gardens among the stars." Marcus looked around the worn corridors of the wandering star, seeing it now not as a relic but as a beginning. His grandfather had kept this secret for decades, waiting for the right moment, the right person. "Will you help me?" Marcus asked, looking at the ancient robot. Abel's optical sensor brightened. Captain Chen's final instruction was clear. "Serve the family until the mission is complete." "I have waited 43 years for this conversation, Marcus Chen. I can wait a few more decades to see what gardens humanity will grow." Marcus smiled, pocketing the sphere carefully. "Then let's get this ship running. We've got work to do." In the silence of space, the wandering star's engines hummed to life for the first time in years, and humanity's oldest robot calculated a course toward tomorrow.